All right, time for the Friday edition of Robby and Rexrode here on 102.5-106.3 The Game. Sponsored by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. We are broadcasting for the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game in Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. I'm Joe Rexrode. He's Paul Kaharski, in for a fifth day here for Robbie Stanley. Nick Keyser producing.
Listen to the people applauding.
I gotta say, man, listen. Our intro, obviously, it's like me yelling, "Biscuit Bird," yelling dumb crap, like as I'm wont to do.
Time for a freshening, but Nick's not one to.
Well, no, that's pretty new. That's a pretty new, but they took Biscuit out, and then people were complaining about.
I don't make them, man. Don't bitch at me so early.
Easy, easy. You'll talk when you call them.
An objectionable word right away, but it is the 6 o'clock hour. But I think the funniest thing about that whole thing is edge rusher, right tackle, just monotone saying positions like that. That's the Robbie contribution.
He's not well served.
It is pretty amazing. So today we have. Let's see, we got Stilly. So I'll see if you and Stilly can actually have a conversation.
Still Billy.
And I can, the Still Billy, and see if I can, get out of the way and we can have a nice conversation. He's at 7, TD at 8. You've got some good topics today. We're going to talk about,
I loaded you up with topics last night,
owners.
And then I look at your list, and none of them are on there.
Well, at that point, I'd moved on to picking up daughter. And then making dinner, you know what I mean? Like, I've updated the grid. We've got some stuff in there from you. But I did want to also, since you've had this week with us, and we are going to talk college hoops too. Thank goodness. It's a huge rivalry weekend coming up in college basketball, but we'll get into that later in the show. But what have we learned with you this week? And I'm going to have you rank the Titans issues, which Robbie and I have done, but you have not done. But I want to know what we've learned. We've learned that, you're very good at getting listeners to scream at me. I've got listeners screaming at me about my draft choice. I got listeners screaming at me about Elon Musk. I didn't bring him up. I got listeners screaming at me about yesterday the J-Rob thing. Oh my gosh, people are so mad at me about J-Rob. It's like I'm this huge apologist for J-Rob. I'm just saying, like 66 and 48. Is that the record?
Very big apologist for J-Rob yesterday.
Big.
And we'll have the biggest apologist for J-Rob on in an hour.
I guess maybe he and I can team up. Again, I'm just 66 and 48. That's the record, right? You said the record wrong.
I did say the record wrong.
The correct record is 66 and
48.
48. Even if you take into account the 7 losses that he wasn't around for.
Yeah, which should count against him.
Yeah, that's fine. But 66 and 48,
look, I'm not denying. I mean, we could go on and on and on in this. He was excellent for a while, and then he put them in an immense crater.
Right. Again, I agree with that. It's just it's like, what's the final word that you apply to it? That's really all it is. I say pretty good. You say bad.
I say it was pretty good, and then it was really bad.
But again, it was way better than pretty good, and then it was terrible. So then there's one word for all of it. Not this, that. What is the final analysis of the whole thing?
Well, I don't know how you're averaging out really good and really bad and coming out with good.
Pretty good.
So you're averaging out really good and really bad and to pretty good.
To 66 and 48? Yeah, pretty good. Uh-huh. Is that crazy?
Yes, because
okay.
Because the remnants of what he did, remnants of what general managers do, have a lasting effect.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those losses after the fact, where it got really bad, are a result of roster holes that he created.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm aware of this too. Like I think we both know what happened pretty well. It's just a matter of how you want to characterize it.
Yeah, you wash his hands of all of it.
Yeah, exactly. By saying pretty good overall, I'm washing his hands. I'm not washing his hands of anything, but I am saying that
I think you're talking to him more than you let know.
No, the failures since he left are allowing people to over blame him and over scapegoat him. When at this point, it's like, okay, you guys could have done the last 2 off seasons. Whatever the collaboration was, whoever made this or that decision. We wouldn't have to be talking as much about it. That's my point.
Okay, well, you're hard enough on Rand then?
I I think so. Yeah.
I don't know if you were proportionally.
I'm okay. I'm okay with
him.
Rand sleeping on a plane, but I mean, I think I was I think fair.
It's really journalistically damaging the joking that you do.
Oh, good God!
It really
Journalistically damaging.
It is.
Oh my God. How so? I
so?
can't have a little fun.
No, because you turn it into a joke, and people take. I hope you more seriously, most seriously, out of everybody here as a journalist, and they say, "Oh, well, Joe doesn't take that report seriously, and so it's not a serious report." Where it's a very serious report, where a lot of people who saw Rand's behavior over his 2 years had a lot of issues with the way he worked in a meaningful way. And so for you to consistently joke about it demeans it when it was actually part of the reason why he got fired.
I'm demeaning the people who think it's a big deal that he slept on a plane, and I will not back off that. It's stupid. I don't care. It's dumb. I don't, like I said, I don't blame you.
Share of the people with the team who work in the front office who saw the way he conducted himself as not fitting for not a fitting example for them, not fitting leadership, not matching their ethic. You're calling all of them dumb. And I think you're endorsing the culture problem that existed with the front office during his 2 years.
I'm saying
that's
a bad example. Now, again, I don't blame you for writing it.
Which I think was as big a problem during the 2 years as personnel things he did and stuff like that. And that's not the only example I gave.
Sure.
But that's the one that
I'm going to make fun of that forever. And again, it's not making fun of you. It's not making fun of the report. It's not diminishing.
It turns out that
it's not diminishing.
Effectively doing
it's not diminishing journalism.
It's effectively doing
your sources who thought that was some great example. I think they're idiots. And yes, you can please tell them that for me. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, that's just so I'm sorry. That's joke fodder now, I mean, every once in a while, I might also say, hey, your boy Brinker, we know we're joking around about that. Right?
I just think it's a mistake by you.
Yeah, I don't apologize for that. I don't think that example is effective. I understand that there's more to it. And I understand that, there were people that,
it's almost akin of like Chris Sanders saying, well, nobody watched film on the planes when I was coming home, and not realizing that the technology to watch film on planes didn't exist when he played.
Really? You couldn't have. I'm trying to think. Back then,
there were no iPads in 1999.
There were no iPads. Could you not have watched film on a computer in like 2000?
On a computer? What computer?
I don't know.
A black and white, like
you couldn't have gotten like an 8mm.
You needed a phone cord to plug into to get on the internet in 1999.
Yeah. Well, that's a fair point. Apparently, you got a Valentine's request on YouTube.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone!
Is someone asking him to be their Valentine?
Fortunately, my wife wasn't awake this morning for me to forget to tell her.
Yeah. You have to stop along the way.
We will not be spending time on this show, as virtually every other show in town will do today, with what's your greatest Valentine's Day memory? What's the best Valentine? Oh, my God. Are you kidding me?
Andrew, you think Andrew's going to do that today?
Maybe Andrew won't, but every other show will. What's your fondest? What's
the
best Valentine? I doubt it. What's your favorite Valentine's Day memory? What's the best Valentine's Day gift you ever got? Coming up in the next segment, we've already done what's the best Valentine's Day gift you ever got. We'll do what's the best Valentine's gift you ever gave.
What about the worst? I mean, we could do a full hour on this. We could break this down.
No, don't get ahead, Joe. We're doing that in the 5 o'clock hour.
These are really good ideas. Now, here is a topic that you brought up last night, which I think is very interesting. So the Cleveland Browns. Okay, so first of all, how many cold weather stadiums do we have left? Now, Buffalo, they are sticking with
a stadium that's built, modeled after Tottenham, which I visited the last time the Titans were overseas, which is a terrific, terrific stadium. They're way over budget there, but they decided to build an outdoor stadium.
So they may be the lone wolf here.
Football purists, that's nice. In terms of Buffalo, first off, that stadium is slated to cost as much as the stadium here. You would think things would be a little bit cheaper in Buffalo, and they're going to spend 2.1 or $2.2 billion for a roofless stadium in Buffalo, New York. Look, I'm all for it. I want to watch outdoor football in Buffalo. But if I live in Buffalo, I'd like some concerts in what they have 3 good months of weather in Buffalo.
Yeah.
I'd like some concerts and some events year round. That whatever. I think if you're publicly financing part of that, it makes sense. So there's a debate there. But I think when Cleveland is on the verge of voting about a proposal that would create an indoor stadium there in the suburbs, I'm wondering, as stadiums turn over in places like Chicago and Cincinnati and eventually Philadelphia and New York, in 20 years, in 30 years, is outdoor football in the Northeast going to be a rarity? And is it going to be Buffalo and Lambeau? We'll go Midwest too.
I mean, Arrowhead, you can't mess with that either, right?
No, but there's a new stadium coming in Kansas City's future too. And I think, you can look to Nashville as part of this. The state gave $500 million to this project on the condition that it's an indoor venue.
Yeah.
Because why? It wants the tourism dollars that come with WrestleMania and Final Four and National College Football playoffs and all these concerts that are year-round events that make it more than a 18, 19, 20 event building.
Yeah, you've ticked me off all over again on an aspect of the Titan Stadium. We will get to that when we come back. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 125, 106 for the game. You want to join the conversation? The phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, 615-737-1025. We also have the YouTube chat going today. We're gonna mine the YouTube chat, right, PK?
We are. I need to get in the YouTube.
I'm not in the YouTube chat yet. So, but according to Keezer, the YouTube chat has a lot of love going on today. Love for you, PK.
That's nice.
Be my Valentine.
I'm in there.
So, first of all, I do love some outdoor football. Now, I say that, and it's like, do I want to sit in that? If I were
I want other people.
If I were a fan going to the game, I want to watch on TV and be like, man, that looks awesome, and be warm while they're doing that. But it is like think of the incredible games, not just at obviously Lambeau, Arrowhead. Think about the Tuck Rule game in New England. Obviously, like you said, Philly, the Giants, Jets, they all play outside.
Washington.
Yeah. That's true. Then you're getting into this region. And that's where –
and Washington's talking outside. They're going to build at the old RFK, and I don't think there's any talk of that being indoor.
Yeah, and that's, then you're getting into the sort of the mid-Atlantic, and it's a little bit, a little bit different. Their weather is basically like our weather. It's like almost the exact same typically, right?
Washington is not our weather.
Yeah, it's not too different, man. I mean, and I know this just because it's – just like talking to my family and stuff, and like when we go back, it seems like it's always pretty close. But it's certainly different than it's not the same. Washington is different than New York
for sure.
Yes, I mean I went to, I used to go to school in Virginia and in Northern Virginia, and it was still the point where it's like ask Johnny, you get a couple inches of snow, that's going to shut everything down.
Yeah.
Whereas in Philly, no, but Philly, New York, that's not the case. But I do hope that we don't lose outdoor.
But your division's endured this. I mean, Minnesota's been indoor for a long, long time.
Same with the Lions.
And the Lions have been indoor for a long time. And that division, so Green Bay is more
might be
special.
on an island.
Is Buffalo going to be, ultimately more special? I mean, New England's not heading indoor anytime soon. That stadium's very good. I think it's got endurance. It'll be renovated. But they're not heading to a new building anytime soon. The Jets and Giants aren't heading to a new building.
Yeah, that's only 10 years old?
Anytime soon, maybe 15 or 12.
Yeah.
But I wonder in 30 years what things will look like.
So here, and this is, look, I understand, first of all, just the Nissan Stadium as it is, I understand it doesn't have the amenities, all that stuff, and you compare it to other stadiums of the league, it had to do something. But I love the outdoor football and grass here, and most Sundays it's good. Do you remember the cost? Because I remember at the time throwing a fit about it, and I think it was $300 or $400 million more to have the retractable roof. I think you poo-pooed this too at the time. I really hate that they didn't do that. You're going to invest this much in a stadium. I mean, really, what's a little bit more relative to the total cost to do that? Because there are going to be so many Sundays. There always will be so many Sundays here where it would be worthwhile. The Titans spin on that was, well, the Colts hardly ever do that. The funny thing about that is, I mean, I think this year the Colts had like 4 days where it was open, half of their home schedule.
Yeah, but they really don't open it much.
But that's 4.5 hours north of here.
There are some that are really troublesome too. Atlanta had all kind of troubles with theirs. Now they went super fancy on it, and they couldn't just open and close. It had to be a camera shutter, fancy.
Right.
But I do think like that's not getting you grass, which is part of what you want. I
still would take it. I would take it without. Yeah, I mean, I think grass would be better too. You can do that. Arizona does that.
I think it changes other things. I mean, people aren't going to care about this, but there's an open air press box, which goes away and gets hermetically sealed if there's a retractable roof. I don't have a problem with it. Once you go indoor, it's indoor. I just don't. I think it's asking for trouble, and it's not an amenity that's used often enough to.
But I think it could have been here.
Worthwhile.
I think it could have and would have been here.
Maybe more here. But it's also easy for you to say, what's another $500,000?
Well, it is easy for me to say, sure. We're all sitting here telling the billionaire what to do with the money. I mean,
well, it's not all her. It would have been more taxpayer money.
Yeah.
Okay. And you and I don't live in the, in the Davidson County.
That's true. But what do you think about the arrangement? I mean, the way that they've tied it to tourism, it seems, it's the most public money, but I feel like it's a pretty effective strategy.
Well, it's also tied to those PSL dollars, which is, I don't know how people are buying those with the numbers. Now it's about 40% sold. I talked to somebody about this last week, about 40% sold. And obviously they're getting to the quote unquote cheaper stuff. They went most expensive towards cheapest. That mosh pit is 300 plus people that, were screened and had to apply and everything. The craziest, including Mr. First Down, a friend of mine.
Nice.
And Chili Pepper and all of the most crazy fans. One question I have that I haven't had answered, maybe people know the answer. I'm going to feel disoriented. I feel like that it runs east-west instead of north-south. That seems weird to me. And I also have trouble. It seems like I've had trouble with this in baseball parks. I don't know if I'll have trouble with it, but a rectangular field in a square building feels weird to me. And I've had that in baseball stadiums in Houston and in Phoenix. The geometry of a baseball park in a building that doesn't seem like it should fit.
Yeah.
Like when you're walking in and then you get in. I spent a lot of time sitting there feeling out of sorts that it doesn't work. So I'm curious about that.
Seems like a you problem, but I know what you're saying. Well, I mean, look, the illustrations of the place are. I mean, it's like it does not look to me like a football
stadium. It looks like an office building from the sides, and from above, it looks
like kind of like a really fancy Whole Foods sort of thing.
Yeah,
kind of deal. I mean, all the mock-ups, especially of the interior, are
inside
awesome.
looks spectacular. Outside, I don't know that that's the most important part. The blimp shot. I'm not particularly excited by blimp shots. I'm much more concerned with the interior.
Would you take a nap on a blimp?
I could nap I think in any flying object. Maybe a helicopter would be difficult, but I'm a world-class plane sleeper.
That would be, yeah. See, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I get on the thing, and now I struggle now more than I used to. But it used to be like as soon as you get airborne, I can't even keep
But I'm
my
not
eyes
surrounded
open.
by colleagues who are working, teammates who are working.
45-minute flight. Michael and Madison says, Paul just has a stick up his ass. Most people have a negative bias toward journalism anyway. Hey, what are you saying, Michael? Joe's making fun of the fact that Rand sleeping helped do him in, not even the validity of the claim. Doesn't really move the needle as much as Paul thinks it does. Again,
most people have a negative bias towards journalism. So me and my closest Nashville friend, who's the highest with the highest ranking journalistic publication there is in America in sports, you should just be anti-journalism too, Joe. Since everybody,
I'm not anti-journalism.
But in this guy's logic, since everybody's anti-journalism, we should. The two of us journalists, we should just be anti-journalism too. What an idiotic statement by that guy. Turn the radio off. You're a moron.
Oh my goodness. I like Michael and Madison. And it says
he's a complete idiot.
It's actually Michael and Madison in Madison.
Moron.
That's I probably should have read the whole message before I used
idiot.
I just read.
I'm infuriated by that. It's so the logic behind it is so bad. Hang up and go into your fourth grade student's class with him or her today.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's you're overstated. Again, I just have a problem. I'm not a fan of, and I've taken part in it. So to be totally clear, I've taken part in source stories where people are able to take shots at people. I mean, it's
representative of a big trend, stuff
Sure.
of which I could not write.
I understand.
Wasn't the only thing. You're cool with them drafting Will Levis at the beginning of the second round, not having stayed for his pro day. You got to see everything the guy does. That's cool.
Sure. No, I'm not saying that at all. Again,
So bring that up as often as you bring up the plane sleep.
But the plane sleeping is funny.
All done.
But the plane sleeping part is funny.
Block that guy's text.
I can't. I don't think we can do that. There's some other people on there I'd love to block, but I just ignore them. All right, when we come back, we will get into actual Titans football talk. Carsey's going to go through an exercise that Robby and I did. We'll see what he comes up with. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. And let me let you know that the Game Nashville Sports Network is your home for NASCAR racing. 94.9 The Fan will have live coverage of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race, fresh from Florida 250 tonight at 6 p.m. Tomorrow, catch the NASCAR Xfinity Series race, United Rentals 300, starting at 3:30 p.m. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, sponsored by First Horizon. Big Bank Muscle, Small Big Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. And, man, some Hall & Oates jamming right now, PK.
So Colin Coward says the Rams want the number 3 pick from the Giants for Matthew Stafford.
Colin Coward is reporting this.
Colin Coward. He says the Rams
When's
like
the last time
Stafford.
When the last time he got info?
He gets info once in a while. He said the Rams like Stafford, but they're tiring of the constant quarterback talk. His wife saying things publicly. They like him, but they don't want to restructure his deal and give him a big contract. They're going to make a move, I believe, on Matt Stafford. What the Rams want, I'm told they want the Giants' first-round pick at 3. Then I've read some other stuff that says what they do with 3 is look to move down, and they'd be patient about a quarterback for next year.
That's wild.
This would screw. The reason I'm bringing it up is it would screw the Titans
right.
with the Giants as a potential trade up partner. And this is a Giants kind of move.
And obviously there's the whole connection that everybody's been talking about with Stafford's
brother-in-law as assistant quarterback coach
with the Giants. So the thing about that one that's hard for me to buy is the Rams.
It's expensive.
The Rams doing that and just being willing to suck this year.
It's expensive I think McVay's got the I can win with anybody kind of thing a little bit. And
really, because what worked for him was Goff's good, but that guy's better. I'm going to go do that and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
but
right.
Now he thinks he can win with anybody.
Well, I just think they could be in a reset. They're going to trade Cup. They're in a little bit of a pause, but I think they can compete in pause mode in a bad division and have a 1-year reset and be good again in a year.
That's really interesting because they also gave the Eagles the best game the Eagles had on the way to the championship in Philly.
Giants giving up 3 for a 37-year-old would just be short sight.
It's more Jets-like, really, but I guess both of them kind of deserve that now, right?
Yeah, and that's a team with a desperate GM he's got to win right now and can't be patient, and I can't see them doing that. I mean, that's too expensive.
So that's a wild one.
I'd counter with my second.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. And I know Easton Freeze wrote this A to Z Sports about, could the Titans use 35? Would that be enough to get Stafford here? Not a first round pick, but close to a first round pick. It's awfully close to a first round pick. Like, would that be enough, to move the Rams? Now, if you're the Rams and you're like, well, we can get 3 for him. Oh, okay. Well,
I really, my stance on all of this is for anybody old that can't give up any draft capital. So the Bridgie type of guy they're going to get is going to be less talented than the guys that cost draft capital. And they're going to sign somebody who ends up on the market and deal with it and either draft somebody this year or just wait a year and endure, hopefully better than last year quarterbacking, but still not great quarterbacking while they try to build up the roster around it and look to make a move next year. It's vague who that would be, but thinking that there's a better pool of options next year.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to agree, don't give up valuable draft capital right now in the position you're in. It's just kind of the question of how good do you think he is? How long do you think he has? And how close, like we talked about yesterday, okay, this team was 3-14. Were they really, is it a 3-14 roster? Is it really a 7-10 roster that went 3-14?
I mean, it's not a 7-10 roster. Maybe a 4 or 5 win roster.
5-win roster?
But
then I wouldn't do it.
But I mean, you can't come in. I don't think. What message does it send if you come in? The talk is all about draft and develop and get a lot of picks. And then you say, but for this 33 34-year-old quarterback. We thought giving up a second-round pick was the prudent thing to do for a 2-year guy.
Yeah.
After we already gave up our third. And so we're going to pick first round and fourth round.
A lot of mixed messages, but that's kind of been the thing with them, right?
Right. I mean,
if there's a bit of consistency,
if they do that, they would be being consistent with what they've been rather than changing their stripes.
Yes.
So if we're expecting a change of stripes, I just can't see them doing it.
Yeah.
They got to gather picks, not give them up. So
we know quarterback, we know offensive line. We talked about both those a lot today. I'd like to hear from you in most pressing all the way down the position groups, because here's a position group we never talk about linebacker. I mean, like, to me, linebacker is obviously it's not a premium position. It's not one of those. It often doesn't move the needle. But it's funny when you look around the league at what a difference good inside linebackers can make for teams, and what a difference bad ones can make for teams. But that's just one example. So,
I mean, this team had Avery Williamson.
We never talk about tight end. I think that they really need to help themselves at tight end. They need to get better at tight end. They're not good enough at tight end.
Here's another position. Like, they don't have a second safety right now, and Hooker is heading into his last year of his deal.
Yeah.
Where's the safety of the future? He's nowhere on this roster.
Okay, so rank him.
But this team is in a position where, like, a normal team would have its spreadsheet and be thinking, like, if you had any kind of established team and you could look a year out, you'd be saying, we need a safety this year to play special teams and inherit a spot next year.
Mm-hmm.
This team needs a safety for this year to play next to Hooker and can't even be thinking about the Hooker spot until next year, when you're, if you can't re-sign Hooker,
right,
or you decide that Hooker's done, then you're in desperation mode at safety. It can't even think about the 2026 roster. I mean, the priorities are obvious. I mean, quarterback's number one to a degree, but I think there may be an element of patience there. Offensive line's been a problem for too long. You got to fix the offensive line, number one. And edge is pathetic. I mean, they're putting people on the field at edge. Allie Gay, I mean, can't do anything. Can't do anything. And there's not upside there. You don't look at him and say, well, here's a guy that's going to develop and turn into something. I don't think so. It's a guy.
Yeah. How much more does Harold Landry have left? What if Harold Landry gets a good young edge on the other side of him?
I think Harold Landry might be done. I hate to say it.
Done.
I love Harold Landry. I mean, he's pretty far removed from that knee and didn't show much burst at all. And then you look at a breakdown of his sacks last year. I mean, he had 9. One of them was like a beat your man and go get the quarterback sack, like an outright
one of the 9
win.
One of the 9.
Yeah.
There's probably, I mean, you could probably find some, you could find, it's just like interceptions. Like you could make excuses on a lot of interceptions for a lot of QBs, right, if you wanted to. But if you make the play, you make the play. If you don't, you don't.
And there are probably other times where he beat his man and something happened that the ball came out, or the quarterback escaped in an unnatural way.
But you think he might be done? Well, if that's the case, they're really in trouble.
Yeah, no, I think Harold Landry cannot be their number one pass rusher next year. And I think there's a situation where for $17 million, he's not on the team next year, or he's asked to take a pay cut. Maybe he does, but he's not a $17 million player, even if he's back towards the better version of Harold Landry. It's too much money for a guy that's not going to be your number one rusher. So I think they have to get a premier guy, and they've got to get a second guy as well. And Arden Key is a better option as your third than Harold Landry based on how they played last year.
Wow, that's a hot take. All right, we'll get to other position when we come back. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in tonight, folks, to 102.5 The Game for Vanderbilt baseball. The Commodores face Grand Canyon. Pregame begins at 6:30 p.m. First pitch at 7. Coverage also available on the 102.5 The Game app and at thegamenashville.com. It's just like with a lot of things, PK. I'm not ready. We're all ready for football when it comes, but I'm not ready for like basketball and hockey when they come. I'm not ready. Right now, I'm not ready for college baseball when it starts out. I'm often not ready for these things, but it is starting. So get excited. And Vanderbilt should be great this year. Tennessee, defending national champ, should be a fun year.
I'm ready for MLB baseball.
Yes, pitchers and catchers
are in.
They have reported, right? They've reported, at least at some places. Yes.
My place.
My Tigers did not sign Alex Bregman. Very disappointing.
Sign Gleyber Torres. Have fun with that.
Yeah.
Watch the guy stand.
Yeah. Well, maybe
good at standing.
Maybe that Detroit work ethic will rub off on him. We'll see.
Yeah. Yankees don't work.
Yeah, they're white collar, soft team. Okay, so
soft team went to the World Series.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it happens. That's again. I was waiting for the team to be like, our identity is we're a white collar, fancy, skilled, kind of soft team. But we're just more talented than you. Like everybody's got to be blue collar way out working. Like, why can't your identity just be that you're like really talented and you're just better?
Well, because it had a guy like Gleyber Torres who's not really talented.
Well, that's true, I guess.
Maybe now we could go that direction.
Maybe, yeah, there you go.
Rid of him.
Okay, so we agree. So edge, obviously, we have not gotten into receiver, tight end,
problem.
Inside linebacker, receiver, tight end, inside linebacker, special teams.
I don't think you can spend much at inside linebacker. I mean, maybe you trade out Kenneth Murray, who is making, I think, $7 million, which is steep for what Kenneth Murray brings. And Nick Bolton is a free agent who Borgonzi knows well.
Very good player.
I don't know how much he brings, but he would be a real Monty Rice, who your guy drafted. They had a nice.
He wasn't a J-Rob?
Yeah.
That's my guy. That's right. I forgot. J-Rob's my guy.
So they had a nice trend going. They had Avery Williamson and Jayon Brown and David Long, and then they kept getting around higher and around higher and around higher, and they concluded with Monty Rice, who's bust.
Yeah, total bust.
And so their inside linebackers are very questionable now, and they need some of these guys to pan out. Cedric Gray really needs to pan out.
Is there any indication from anyone you've talked to, anything you've seen, anything you've heard that Cedric Gray, that we should just forget last year? I mean, obviously he was hurt. That there's something there.
Well, I mean, that's you call it a red shirt year, with a guy like that, and hope it takes off, but not from anything we've seen. No, I mean, they talk about him fondly at the end of the year, made progress, blah, blah, blah. Didn't see it in what he did.
He's an important, because that's,
if he can be a guy.
Yeah,
then they don't have to worry about that spot as much, Chance Campbell will come back before he gets hurt again, and have a good training camp.
He's a good player when he's not hurt. But
hurt. I mean, he's literally never not been hurt.
You
to
still
play any kind of meaningful games.
You still haven't mentioned Dr. Jack. No mention. No love.
I mean, Gibbons will go out there and he'll play a couple good games, and everybody will be like, "Oh, get Dr. Gibby, he's so smart and everything." And then teams will start to pick at him, and you realize that he can't, as smart as he is to be where he needs to get, he gets there late because he doesn't have the physical skills. They need to move on from people like that.
So we agree, like absolute DEFCON 1 on O-line, edge, quarterback. So
and look, they don't have receivers on the roster. Calvin Ridley is the only guy worth a damn who's under contract at receiver.
So significant can be money. It can be draft capital. Receiver, inside linebacker, safety, as you mentioned, and let's say also tight end.
Yeah.
Receivers got to be at the top.
I mean, receivers got to be at the top because who's under contract? Ridley, Jaquan Jackson, NWI is not under contract.
You think he's going to move on?
Well, I mean, I think if you
he
let
might
him
have
get
done
to the
enough to actually
market,
get some
yeah,
interest.
somebody's going to be like, hey, we need a touchdown scorer. And this guy just scored like a ridiculous amount of touchdowns per touches.
For a team that doesn't score touchdowns.
Yes. If Rabes, isn't going to overpay, but I think he'd take a look. New England's got wide receiver problems. And if you let him go, then you've created another hole for yourself. So I'm trying to think who else is under contract there. Am I forgetting anybody?
No one that
no one that's of substance.
I mean, some people are going to be like, excited.
Oh, Burks is under contract.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he'll do the same thing. He'll come to camp and they'll tell us how great he is and something will happen. You can't count on him at all.
I've got him as a cut. You don't think so?
Yeah, at the end of camp.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's $4 million in dead money if you cut him pre-June 1. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It seems to me like,
is he healthy by then? I mean, you can't cut him hurt.
Yeah,
he's recovering from an ACL.
Yeah,
so.
That's true. But it just seems like for both sides to stop even worrying about him, and for him, maybe I'm sure he'll go somewhere else and score 8 touchdowns next year.
I mean, who was saying that he was Reggie Moss? Randy Moss.
He is Reggie Moss.
Reggie Wayne and Randy Moss. They were calling him a combination.
The next Reggie Moss. They were calling a good receiver for Incarnate Word.
Well, I mean, I'd said that, obviously making a mistake, but they were saying things like he's a combination. I can't remember who was
Randy Moss. I never heard that with Burks.
I mean, I'm just picking random good receivers, but they were throwing out names of ridiculously good receivers and saying that they saw. I think like Condre Diggs was throwing out super compliments.
I mean, look, before the Titans made the franchise killing trade of AJ Brown, like all the draft people were comparing him to AJ Brown. And that was the default comp of that draft class.
Well, that's fine that he was well regarded coming in the draft. But we're not listening to any of this BS where the Titans are going to fluff up bad players and tell us that they're getting good. And they may do that with Cedric Gray, and Cedric Gray's got a chance. But when I'll believe that Cedric Gray is good? When I see him do something good in a regular season game. I'm not, and people are going to write these stories in training camp. Oh, in OTAs. Cedric Gray, second year revolution, looks really good. And I'm going to come on here on Wednesday and make fun of that story. And I ain't writing it. I ain't writing it about anybody because I've fallen for this stuff too much.
Justin from Nashville says, was it D-Hop? Was it D-Hop saying some of this stuff? I mean,
D-Hop said some of it, but some non-receivers were saying it. Some defenders were saying it.
So that's obviously, no question, because they don't even have at some of the position we mentioned, like at tight end, they have guys who you can play. You can go out there and play. At linebacker, same thing. At receiver and safety, really, there's just no depth. There's no you have to do a lot of work in both of those rooms. And I am like Amani Hooker. He's had very few fully healthy seasons. You can pretty much count on a few games of every season. He's going to be out, right? And how much is it? I mean, he's
a good player. He's been a good player.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean,
and he brings some quieter leadership. Here's the quote.
But you do have to have his replacement. You have to start lining that up.
Yeah. Here's the quote. It was Calvin Ridley. This dude is a freak, Ridley said of Burks. Seriously, bro.
Ridley, I remember
he's going to be a stud. There's no worries on him. What I see, he's like Julio Jones, AJ Brown. He's like Terrell Owens, a dude that big, that fast. He's a stud, man. You ain't got to worry about him. He's just got to learn, slow that game down. He's going to be all right. You ain't got to, I'm now repeating, you ain't got to worry about him. Let me tell you something about
T.O.
Let me tell you something about Burks. You've got to worry about him constantly. Constantly.
And that's what I'm saying. I think it'd be better for them to just not have to worry about him because he's somewhere else.
I would get rid of him just so people would stop saying ridiculous things about him.
I mean,
I would put a gag order on the team in talking about Traylon Burks, coaches included. All you do is kill the guy by pumping up his tires like this.
I'm still not sure that's as bad as Byard. What did Byard say about Anthony Ferkser? He said something about Ferkser. I always forget it, but it was like he's like the next difference-making tight end in the NFL or something like that. Oh, my God.
This is how delusional the organization is. I mean, this is representative of the organization. It's got blinders on, and it looks at a guy like Traylon Burks, who clearly is not this. And it sees Terrell Owens.
Speaking of delusional and you yelling, we're going to have Jared Stillman coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 125-106.3 The Game. Second hour here, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106 through the game. Paul Karski in for Robby. Robby and Rexrode sponsored by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/getitall. And we are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. And we are getting great service today from our own Jared Stillman.
We are.
You know, before we get into the Titans and whatever you and Stilly are going to yell at each other, I got to say, Jared, you know, I rarely unmute you on Twitter, but Keezer pointed me in your direction, and what an absolute stream of tantruming you had last night about UC Saros. You okay, bro?
Boy, I tell you, last night watching the Four Nations face-off, which I don't.
Where's
did you?
Jared
I'm sure
Stillman?
you watched.
Who is this?
I'm sure you watched the game last night.
Wait, what?
Four Nations.
That voice.
I'm sure.
Some Jared Stillman impersonator.
It sounds like Kermit the Frog, but he's sick.
Patrick Mahomes
he's
is
toughing
joining
it
us.
out.
Ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Mahomes.
It sounds like the AI version of Jared Stillman, like one of these commercials we run, which is clearly half AI and is wild. Anyway, you watched the Four Nations last night, Joe? I'm sure you did.
Hell no.
I watched
I didn't
a little
ask
bit,
you.
but
I know you didn't. You don't watch anything. You don't even watch football anymore. But I was just asking Joe.
I did not watch the third period when it all went to crap.
So when it was 1-0
show.
Finland, when it was 1-0 Finland, I was a little worried. I was nervous. I was like, oh my God, he's going to shut out the United States, and Willie and Chris Mason and everybody else.
Oh, you were worried about your takes. You were worried about getting smoked.
Well, and not only that, I mean, I don't know about you guys. I was rooting for the United States. I mean, I don't, I'm allowed to root against Saros, root for the United States. So I was watching the game last night.
America.
And and the second goal that made it 2-1 USA was not Saros's fault. You know, I think it was a beautiful tip, like right in front of the net, something the Predators almost never do. It was beautiful, and I couldn't blame Saros for that, and it's 2-1. And I just had this overwhelming confidence at 2-1 going to the third that the USA was going to prevail, and probably prevail comfortably, because I'd seen this from Saros so many times, where it's like, you know, he plays well for the first 40 minutes, and then there's like a 3-minute gap of just horrendous play. And then everybody who's a Saros defender tells me that, well, for 56 minutes out of the 59 minutes he was in net last night, he was great, but it was the 3 minutes. And I'll be damned if the 3 minutes weren't a total train wreck last night. And it's just, at this point, it's who he is. 6 goals against the terrible Blackhawks, 6 goals against the very good Americans. I mean, at some point, and again, everybody on Twitter, just like they say with it's the defense's fault. It's not his fault. It's not, again, totally different team, totally different, set of circumstances. Exact same thing happens. And Twitter said, it's not his fault. It's the defense. So I enjoyed that one. And I got to tell you, he is terrible right now. And the hope better be that he's lost it temporarily and hasn't lost it permanently. Because if he's lost it permanently, there's going to be a lot of people over there that lose their jobs over this.
Real quick before we get in the Titans, you have trots today?
I do not have trots today. Why would I have trots on a Friday?
What day's your trots day? Why did I think it was
usually
Friday?
Tuesday, but
schedule.
They're on break, so I don't know if we'll have him next Tuesday or not. But we're going to have some conversations about the goalie next time Trots comes on the program.
I'm looking forward to it. So where?
I've already told him like 16 times this year I wouldn't have signed him to that contract.
Yeah, and I'm sure he takes that seriously.
He ran to his office and tried to make amends. Tell me briefly, if you will, how firing J-Rob was the worst decision, I heard you say the other day, the Titans have ever made, as opposed to, say, drafting Isaiah Wilson or trading A.J. Brown.
Because the decision to fire J-Rob wasn't one that was like, there's no excuse for whatever reason that you would have had to fire the general manager in the middle of the season when you were 7-5 in first place. Like, the logic that led you to do that, like, again, I don't, the Brown trade was horrific, and it was the kind of thing that gets somebody fired. But the logic behind it, it makes sense why they would think to do that. It was bad logic, but at least there was some logic. The logic of, well, I'm just mad that I got flicked off by the Eagle fan, so I'm going to fire the general man. Like, that's terrible, terrible, terrible logic.
Well, firing him in season was dumb.
That was the problem. That was the moment that said to me that this was a poorly run operation. The day before that happened, the day before he got fired, I said to Caroline, I go, you do realize that in other organizations, the less stable organizations, because at that point in time, I had respect for Amy's ownership of the Titans. And I said, you do realize, like in other organizations with the bad owners, the coach gets fired off of a game like that. Now, I wasn't thinking like the head coach. I was thinking like the secondary coach, the D coordinator. Somebody gets fired because they get embarrassed that A.J. Brown has that kind of game.
Which had happened under Amy, by the way, in 2016 with Bobby April. But keep going.
And the next day, she hauled off and fired the general manager. And at that point, I realized this was first I had to do some serious digging to say, like, wait a minute. Was there
you made up a whole bunch of ridiculous theories,
right? Yes.
With no evidence whatsoever.
No. Yeah. I heard what you said yesterday, Paul. It was totally out of context. I said at that point in time, I started investigating. Was it something that was HR related?
You launched an investigation
because I went through all of these different could it have been that I don't know, he stole tickets? Was supposed to go to the J.
Stop repeating these things. People hear them and they take you seriously. And there's no evidence to
only
any of them.
Stupid people that don't listen to the context of it, like you, Paul. Again,
people are in and out of their cars during your show. That's how radio works. You're smarter than that.
Could it have been this? Could it have been? And the answer was no. So it was so wait a minute. So
it took you like a year.
Everybody knew the answer.
It took you like a year.
Got mad and fired him. Yeah. So the day that John Robinson got fired, Paul, you didn't think that there could have been some sort of HR reason that led to this fire. No. You think it was simply just the owner overreacted.
Yeah. I know the Adams family. I spent time with them. I understand. But listen, if you go blind, okay, you have an objection to the timing. But again,
to my point, what I was saying was that was the moment that I realized this operation was run terribly. And so everything that's happened since then, the hiring of Rand Carthon and the shotgun marriage with Vrabel and the lack of clarity as to who's in charge and the firing Vrabel and hiring a worse coach and all of that, the keeping Chad Brinker when you fired the guy who hired him, all of that has aligned since the firing of J-Rob, because the firing of J-Rob was the moment that I realized this franchise was out of control.
Okay. But take that away. The firing of J-Rob was poorly timed. Sure. But somehow this leads to you giving him a free pass. Like if I gave you a blind resume and said Isaiah Wilson, Caleb Farley, Traylon Burks after trading away A.J. Brown, you would give your usual intensive analysis and say, sucks, should be fired. But how with J-Rob are you okay with that?
Because he won. Because the general manager's job is to win. If I gave you Howie Roseman's blind resume and it was 2 firsts, a second, a third, a fourth, and $79 million in cash for Carson Wentz, and if I told you Andre Dillard and Jalen Reagor, you'd have the exact same response.
So you think he's going to dig out? You think he was going to dig out of all of this when it also included Rashaan Evans, Corey Davis, and Dory Jackson, a terrible record of drafting in the first round that created the hole that they're still in, quite frankly. Not that Rand Carthon was a solution for it. They blew that too. But I mean, his player acquisition was phenomenal for 3 years and then dropped off the face of the earth. Howie Roseman's was, kind of scattered at least. J-Rob was good for a while, and then he was really bad.
I don't agree
with
that.
You defend him, I think, predominantly. You defend him predominantly for a reason that you hate generally, which is this. Go ahead.
With John Robinson, it was not a 3-year period. It was the 16 draft was elite.
Great.
And the 19 draft was probably even better than the 16 draft.
Right.
And then they traded a 4th round pick for Ryan Tannehill. I mean, that is in essence, that is what built this team.
Right.
And he had screw ups along the way. To answer your question, I think John Robinson first of all, we should have let them finish the season. And
I agree with that entirely.
And Joe, I know you agree with this. I believe they would have won the Jacksonville game that week had they not fired Robinson. And there's no way to determine whether or not who's right or wrong about that.
I do agree.
But I think he should have been given the rest of the season. And then I think he should have been given an offseason. How you can fire a general manager after he wins 3 straight division titles? But I think he should have been given an offseason to dig himself out of this. And
I agree with all of that. But to go back and give him a pass on all of this stuff, which was disastrous, is ridiculous. And I'll tell you the basis.
Did I say good job, Isaiah Wilson?
I'll tell you the basis of this. The basis of this,
the biggest mistake he made.
The basis of this is rooted in something that you hate. You hate, I think,
sacred Taoism, which
like
is what
we all do.
To.
We hate this thing where you hire a buddy and you love your buddy no matter what. You would say it like with Vrabel and Craig Aukerman. You and I are big on that. I don't think they're as big of buddies as you think they are, but you hate that. You hire the buddy and you stand behind the buddy no matter what. And your thing is Floyd loved John Robinson. And if Floyd loved John Robinson, I love John Robinson. And John Robinson's great.
May I talk now?
Yeah.
Okay. When I talk about the fact that John Robinson won 61% of his games, which is a fact, right, Paul?
It's a fact, but he's also responsible for a lot of losses after that.
Nothing to do with Floyd's. That is nothing to do with his relationship with Floyd. When I talk about the fact that they made the playoffs 4 times in 6 years, 6 full seasons while he was the general manager, that has nothing to do with Floyd. When I talk about the fact that they had won 2 back-to-back division titles, that has nothing to do with Floyd. In fact, nothing that I argue in defense of John Robinson has to do with Floyd. And if John Robinson had had another bad offseason and the team had been bad in 23, if that had been the case, then I would have been totally on board with his firing in spite of how Floyd felt about it, because I care about results. You know, this is like the same people that call me racist for wanting Rand Carthon fired. It has nothing to do with it. The facts are the facts. And so with Robinson, you have decided that I liked Robinson because Floyd was friends with him. When I'm giving you facts,
I've decided you like him because you're defending Isaiah Wilson.
Did I defend Isaiah Wilson?
You're defending a record that includes terrible first-round picks. Can you stay for the next segment?
Then you must think that Howie Roseman sucked because he drafted Andre Dillon.
Can you stay for the next segment?
Does Howie Roseman suck, Paul?
Dude, it's apples and oranges. Can you stay for the next segment? Do you understand radio works with the breaks, Jared? You understand the breaks. Can you stay for the next segment?
Yes, Paul.
When we come back, we're going to see if he's changed his mind a 4th time on Sam Darnold getting franchise tagged when we come back on Robby and Rexrode here on 102.5 The Game.
Good tease.
Woo!
Nashville's best deal this week, 312 Pizza Company, Germantown. 312 Pizza Company serves the best pizza in town, as well as Chicago-style eats like Chicago dogs, Italian beef sandwiches, and more. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals now to get half off a $30 gift card to 312 Pizza Company while supplies last. And, hey, while supplies last here, of PK screaming at Jared, go ahead.
Not screaming. Got 2 topics, so let's be concise, Jared, so that we can thoroughly cover these. So you were the first to say Sam Darnold was going to get tagged, which was a good idea at the time. Now it's kind of wavered back and forth. But like when you initially said it, I said I didn't think it was going to happen. Then when it became popular thinking that it was going to happen, you were like, admit it, Paul, he's going to get tagged. I was right. And I was like, yeah, it seems like you were onto something. Good job. But now it seems like he's probably not going to get tagged. So where do you stand on that? Is there a big mea culpa coming from you that your prediction may have been wrong?
Do you remember why you said he wasn't going to get tagged?
I thought it would be cost prohibitive for them to move forward with the rest of their roster.
Cost prohibitive against what?
Against the salary cap, which you think
against
is imaginary.
The cap. You said they can't do it. They don't have enough cap space. The cap.
Jared.
And guess what?
No one reasonable in the world thinks that your cap take is smart. It's really dumb, dude. Don't make yourself look dumber by doing the cap fake.
No, go ahead.
For about 10 straight weeks, everybody said, yeah, they're going to tag him. And the cap didn't seem to matter. Then he had the 2 bad games. And now everybody I talked to at the Super Bowl seems to think
this isn't about everybody. It's about you. I asked you about you.
About me?
Yeah. You insisted he was going to be tagged, and you were a revolutionary because you were ahead of it. So now, is he going to be tagged?
Again, the popular
your
I
opinion.
would tag him.
Your opinion.
I guess he's not. They seem to.
Oh my
Kevin
God,
O'Connell
you were wrong.
So
tell us about you being
he's
wrong.
Earned the right to be a free agent.
Okay, so were you wrong about him being tagged then? You don't like to spend much time. Yeah. If he was tagged, you would have spent 3 shows about how you were right about him being tagged. I'm asking you to spend 30 seconds about how you were wrong about him.
That's not
being
what
tagged.
Jared doesn't do that.
I know. That's why we're going to do it here.
Minnesota made the decision off of the 2 bad games. How am I supposed to know those 2 bad games are going to happen? Also, I think
you either predict things and keep score on them, or you don't. You don't predict things and only keep score when you're right. This is what you do.
That's what Jared does. I mean, at least he's
not on Robby and Rexrode when I'm subbing.
I was wrong in 2017.
Now, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about this because you spent a lot of time on this, and this is a question I'm asking. So it looks like you're wrong on It looks like you're wrong on Darnold being tagged when you thought you were revolutionary about it at the beginning. Correct?
You know what the best part's going to be?
Correct or not correct?
All of my feeling towards Darnold's being tagged is about the kind of the chatter that has come out from the Super Bowl. And what I would love is if Minnesota's doing one of those things where they tell everybody they're going to let him be a free agent, and then they don't, and then they tag him.
And then you'll have a parade for yourself because you're right. But as of right now, you're wrong, right?
I'll ask you to come on the show that day, and you'll say that you can't because you're busy.
No, I'll come on.
Even though
you never invite me on your show.
But
you never.
I'll have you on the show for that, Paul.
Okay, here's another question for you. When you have an issue with me on the air, why do you text Joe? And when you have an issue with Joe on the air, why do you text Robby? It's very much like your intensive analysis where you say a guy sucks and then you never show up in front of him and he doesn't know what you look like. When I think you suck, when I'm in my car picking up my kid, I text you directly. I don't text Ian. This is called standing up in front of a guy and being direct with a guy. And I don't know if people understand. Let me finish. I don't know if people understand just how weaselly you are with this, with your shame or inability to directly confront someone.
Paul, I have no problem confronting you. I have no problem.
Well, why didn't you text me the other day when you're texting Joe about me?
Because the way to do this is on a 2-person show. You text the other person, and then they offer that into evidence.
No.
See, if I text you about the fact that
that's the cowardly way to do
John
it.
John Robinson is the one who screwed everything up for this team right now, and that's why they're so bad, even though the Washington Commanders
Lou Holtz is entered the room, ladies and gentlemen.
Even though the Washington Commanders busted in 2020, 2021, 2022,
and 2023. Good at changing the topic. I'm asking you why do you cowardly text the other person? Yeah, but answer the question.
So I enter that into evidence. If I text that to you, you're not going to sit there and say, Stilly texted me and said that Washington busted on the 4 first-round picks, and they seem to be good now. You're not going to do that. So you bring it up to the other person. The other person says, Stilly says, and then you have to defend it on the air.
Well, I like to text you. I text you, or I text you and Ian in tandem when I hear you say something.
Yeah, but you
I
guys
mean,
text
Ian's
us
the
so
biggest
much
yes
when you
man
do that.
in the history
Oh,
of yes,
Joe,
man.
you text us so much.
No.
Like I can't even like read it while I'm on the air because it's like a long textbook.
I mean, Stillman says, "Hey, Ian, does blah blah blah?" And Ian, I've never heard Ian say anything but yes, sir.
Well,
yes, sir,
no,
Jared.
you're wrong.
Yes, sir.
No,
I
you're
mean,
wrong.
I
No,
went through.
you're dead wrong on that.
Ian
No.
pushes back a lot.
Ian pushes
but
back. He just does it kindly because Ian's a kind person.
He just does. He doesn't agree. I'd say he doesn't agree more. Than
Here's the agreement I'd like you to make with me. If you have something about what I say, man up and text me about it. That's the deal I like.
Be 40.
That's the deal. Yeah, that's the deal I like. No, I don't want to fight.
That's what it sounds like.
If you have I'm saying if you have something to say to me, say it to me. That's how I deal with people.
Okay,
that's how you should deal with people. That's how grown men
when
deal.
I
with
say it to the
how
other person, when I
children
say it
deal
to
with
Robby
people.
about Joe, when I say it to Joe about Robby, when I say it to Adam about Willie, when I say it to, it's to get it on the air, Paul. You would not, as you were going on your rant that John Robinson is the worst, and you said that it's still his fault that this team sucks. When again,
it's
like
partially
if he
still
had
his
drafted well in 2020. If he had drafted well, he'd still have his job now.
Yeah.
That's why he doesn't have the job.
Traylon Burks should still be an effective person for this team.
Again, that's why he lost the job, Paul. Like that's how GMs get jobs.
Let's end on something.
Inherit bad situation.
Let's end on something we agree on.
Hold on. I get to think
I get last word. It's my show.
If I had texted you about the Commanders,
I'm going to introduce
you
one
would
more
have
question.
never introduced that.
I'm going to introduce one more question. Ian Rappaport, be quick on this. Ian Rappaport's insider role. You had something that defined just how bad these guys are at their job. Quickly hit this because we can end in agreement here.
I mean, the idea that he needed something to go on TV to say that he had that was newsworthy for his scoop segment. And so he took something that everybody already knew that was said on the record publicly in front of everybody like 6 weeks ago and pretended like there was some new report that the Titans are open to trading the number 1 pick. It's ridiculous. Jay Glazer's scoop segment is Jay Glazer saying, hey, the Jets called Aaron Rodgers in town and told him they don't want him back anymore, which none of us knew before Jay Glazer said it. That's a scoop. The idea that, hey, Tennessee might trade the first pick, they're kind of open to it, is not a scoop. And I think it's incredibly disingenuous that these people act holier than that.
Agree with Jared. Thank you, Jared.
Okay, that's a wrap. I'm sorry you were wrong about Darnold. Take care. Have a good show later today. Jared Stillman, everybody. You can hear him make crap up at 2:00.
Thanks, Jared. See ya.
See you guys.
Robby and Rexrode. We'll be back. 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. Sponsored by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/getitall. Thanks for all your reaction on the game, phone, and text line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, 615-737-1025, by the way. Lots of reaction to PK and Jared. I mean, I don't have time to go through it all. Some people love you. Some people hate you. Some people love him. Some people hate him. Some people think that was amazing radio. Some people think that was terrible radio.
Yeah, I don't feel great about it. He's snarfing. That was a snarf without liquid involved.
There's me just coughing directly in the microphone. Let's just continue with this amazing.
I'd love to be on that mic next show.
Good God.
Yeah, who sits there?
I think this is Big Joe, but are they on a remote? They're going to be out? Who knows? We'll find out.
Yeah, fumigate that, Nick.
I apologize in advance.
I've got a question for you.
Okay.
Joe Burrow's been outspoken everywhere he's been, pushing his ownership to re-sign T. Higgins, to re-sign Hendrickson, to take care of Jamar Chase, whose deal is on the horizon. Now Micah Parsons is talking the same way. Like, the Cowboys need to get out there and be aggressive, re-sign our guys, go get people in free agency. There are others. There are wives who are outspoken. Matthew Stafford's wife is apparently part of their issue with him. I feel like, I mean, there have been diva receivers who have talked like this in the past. But, I mean, Burrow and Parsons, I think, are model citizen guys who are linchpins of their franchise. Do you feel like this is a little bit new, a little bit trendy? And does this endear these guys even more to their fan bases when they are putting pressure on, in Cincinnati, generally stingy owner, in Dallas, a generally foolish owner, a delusional owner? Can it have effect? What's your take on what's happening?
Yeah, well, first of all, I do. I love it. I do, because and I know some people, I think I heard on Unsportsmanlike, they're talking about like the Cowboys should move Parsons because he's so outspoken. But I think if you're a great player, well, obviously, is it new? What's very new is, most of your career covering the NFL, if guys wanted to get something out, it was through the media, right? Now everybody has their own microphone. So it's just a totally different deal in that regard,
well, it's
right?
Still the same in that you're saying it out loud to be out there.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, it doesn't have to be like, well, look, this guy popped off in the locker room and, Channel 2 had it, and now
but Burrow's done it on a variety of different outlets.
But I'm just saying, like, obviously social media and everything, everybody now can get what they want to say out on their own independently,
in whatever forum they want,
whenever they want, however they want. And so, and I think it's great. I mean, this league is, what this league is like. If you're a great player who contributes to winning, you're going to get paid, and I think you can get away with a lot of this. And if you're not, you're cut. It doesn't matter how much they love you, how great you are in the community, how well you get along with your teammates and people in the organization. Now, okay, you're not good enough on the field. Bye. So to me, if you are, use your power. And I think that's what these guys are doing. And it should be illuminated when you have cheapos like Mike Brown has been forever, and that organization has been. And Jerry Jones talks a big game, but what did he do last year to improve the Cowboys?
Zero.
I mean, I love it.
I love it too. I mean, on a smaller scale, I've always liked the Titans guys the best, who are good enough to speak their mind without fear of consequences. Delaney Walker was good enough to say what was on his mind and not fear a call into the coach's office or the GM's office, or not care if he got called into the coach's office or the GM's office, because he knew he was going to produce on Sundays. He knew that he had the respect of the guys in the locker room. And if he felt like something was on his mind or he wanted to answer a question honestly, he was going to do that. Blaine Bishop was like that. There have been some guys. There's nobody on that team right now that qualifies that way.
See, I also think there's a huge difference, because I think when you get into questioning the coaching stuff, I mean, that can, I mean, that can.
Well, I'm not suggesting that so much.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, no one. It's like, for example, when AJ Brown was on the block, or they were trying to sign him, and some fans are like, he's a cancer in the locker room or whatever. I'm like, guys, everybody in that team is like, good, get paid, screw them. The front office and the ownership talk trash about them. Like, it doesn't affect the locker room and the coaches and players trying to win football games together. You're the laborers. They're the management, right?
Yeah.
That's the split. So all this stuff about AJ Brown it's like, no, I promise you, every guy on that team is rooting for him, wants him to be their teammate, and says, hell yeah, get paid. Now, when you get into coaching criticisms, obviously then that can get into issues. And it's funny, though. We just watched the Eagles win it all when – how many times have we seen AJ with teammates, with coaches, stuff we heard about Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, and they still find a way through it. But to me, the ripping ownership, ripping player acquisitions, hell yeah, rip the suits.
Yeah,
they're screwing it up.
Player to player, the two big messages are stay healthy and get paid. Those are the two big messages. I mean, I probably told this story before. I covered Keith Bullock once. Like in a little thing for SI where they had a weekly, they played a Madden game against somebody that was coming up on the Monday night game that they were playing, and I can't remember who he played, but I went and wrote up a little thing about his side of it from his house. Somebody did it for the other side, and that's what he said. Goodbye to the guy. Hey, stay healthy, get paid. That always stuck with me. That's like the message, guy to guy.
Right.
Hey, let's kick each other's ass on Monday night, but you stay healthy and get paid.
Exactly. They all know the score and how quickly in this league.
But I think too, this bond. I mean, Joe Burrow immensely popular. Micah Parsons immensely popular. And when they're saying things to ownership that the fans are saying to ownership, that the fans wish they could walk into Jerry Jones' office and say, or Mike Brown's office and say, I mean, that endears them even more. It broadens the affection. Like, hey, this is the guy I'm rooting for every Sunday. Plus, he's me. He's out here tailgating, having the same conversation over beers, and feels the same.
Go get a freaking number 2 receiver.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the guy Josh Jacobs, right? Was it Jacobs? The Packers? Like, I love our guys, but we need a number 1 receiver.
Yeah. And I think guys feel more free to say that. In the case of these two, they're big enough. In other circumstances, sometimes they say it because they're on a pod and they're just comfortable with their friends, and then maybe they have to walk it back.
Yeah, if they're in the locker room, they're not gonna double down, right?
But more, give me more.
Yeah,
and put the owners in a situation. Now, most of these owners don't care. I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do, and they're not going to be swayed necessarily. I don't know. Maybe Joe Burrow could have an effect on Mike Brown. Look, Cincinnati has a chance to be good. I mean, they've gotten good, and the next step to staying good is holding it together.
Well, they've gotten bad, and to me, you cannot waste Joe Burrow because you're not going to spend money. Like, if I'm a fan of that team or if I'm a part of that team, that's just inexcusable. And I'm sorry, but like, when your reputation is what it is, even if that's a simplistic way to look at their issues right now, that's what I mean. You can't run from your history, and there are some big decisions here that they have to make. Are they going to pay anybody?
By the way, they went and got Trey Hendrickson, right?
Yeah.
So they're not all bad. I mean, they're not as cheap as they used to be. The towels have gotten better in Cincinnati. They're still outdoors. Right. But
there's another outdoor place.
They've made some great advances, and they signed Trey Hendrickson the first time. Now you need to sign him the second time to sustain things, and they need a defensive overhaul. Their good defensive coordinator suffered the consequences here. They're at a crossroad, right? Cincinnati deserves for that team. Any city does. When you've got a generational quarterback, like you're saying, you can't waste it.
And good
he's
for him
saying that.
For saying it. Yeah, good for him for being willing to. I love it. All right, we come back. We're going to rant because this TV stuff is getting ridiculous. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
You should just be anti-journalism too, Joe. Since everybody,
I'm not anti-journalism.
But in this guy's logic, since everybody's anti-journalism, we should, the two of us journalists, we should just be anti-journalism too. What an idiotic statement by that guy.
Someone says heartburn is like gout. It's mental. God, I wish that were true.
That's a funny thing to say to somebody who's suffering from it.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, believe me, if
it's all in your head.
Yeah,
nothing's in your chest.
It's like a little recap of the fun week we've had together here as Robby and family enjoy more Disney in Orlando, Florida. We've had some good times this week. You know what we did this week, PK? We at some point, I don't remember what day,
revolutionized the format.
The format of this show?
Format of Sports Talk Radio.
Yeah. We just, again, Stilly and Paulie, you all can out there, some of you love it, some of you hate it. Let me tell you something. Someday, Stilly and Paulie together. It's a dream. But one thing that I did this week, Paul, is I gave you all the reasons on the air, right? All the reasons why absolutely you want to sign up for YouTube. We did talk about it on the air, did we not?
Yeah. And I got the remote that doesn't work.
You got the remote. People were telling us about the remote and how you go the back, all this stuff.
And I'm in the transition period. I'm in my 21-day trial. I haven't yet canceled my Comcast. I'm getting used to it. I'm watching a lot of Paramount Plus. That's where my shows are. I'm in Landman right now, which is excellent. But during this transition, again, YouTube is raising its price in the midst of now losing a bunch of CBS and CBS affiliated stations in a dispute. And it's basically turning into Comcast.
Yeah, I'm first of all, I'm sorry.
Well, Comcast has never had any disputes, by the way, where it's lost channels, unlike DirecTV.
DirecTV did.
Or
we had some real issue with DirecTV. That was part of why I left. I'm very sorry, and let me just say right now, I've loved YouTube TV. It's a fantastic user experience. Again, I'm a huge user of the 4-screen thing. It's the app on the phone is fantastic. It's just really easy. It's much easier than the DirecTV app for my money. And as anybody who knows me knows, I need simplicity. I'm done with this crap. If they're done with CBS, how do you drop CBS
before March Madness?
March Madness is a month away, and like I'm going to be covering the tournament somewhere. But I'm also going to be I have to have on my phone or on my computer other games, regardless of what game I'm at.
You're going to have to get Paramount Plus, and Paramount Plus should probably have all of CBS's stuff on it. So that might be your end around. But look, it's 2025. I talked about some of the concerns here in terms of the flexibility, the usability of flipping around on something like this. Comcast Jared is pointing out, he texted me directly.
Hey!
Comcast has lost the Predators during the game. So these regional sports networks it has had trouble with. So that's a good ad. Thank you, Jared. But
good friends.
How is TV so hard in 2025? We're at the peak of technology, and TV has gotten worse and less manageable. And then you have these outage disputes. And this CBS might be responsible for this. I don't know the details. They may be being unreasonable.
Figure it out.
Figure it out.
I don't care.
Figure it the F out.
No, I'm with you. And look.
And you people all leading me here, right, as this is happening.
Well, no, I've seen a lot of like non-cord cutters saying, see, glad I never did anything, because.
Yeah, well, for 5 years. Yeah. But I mean, also, YouTube doesn't have you under a contract, but the price increases have been pretty damn regular, my people are telling me.
Well,
and soon it's going to cost as much as the Comcast that I'm getting out for month.
Well, I mean, at least for me, for us, it's still right now, it's much cheaper to do this. Although then when you do add in this app, that app, like I got Peacock app.
Well, I already have that stuff. I got Comcast plus Peacock and Paramount, and the one that's reasonable is Hulu, Disney, ESPN Plus bundled for like $10. I mean, I think that's good value.
Yeah. No, but I'm with you. It's like, why can't technology should make this easier for people, right? Technology should make this so that it's, that it's the user experience is enhanced over time. And instead, it's just more confusing. And these disputes are just absolutely ridiculous. Like Nate on the text line is like, I don't believe that they're actually going to do it. But I don't know. I mean, we've seen these things go, and we've seen these things go. It's like, well, they won't by March. They'll figure it out. Yeah. I don't know.
Deadlines make things happen, but we've seen plenty of these things. We've seen plenty of these things happen, and I've got guys in my All-22 group have been talking me through this, and one of them said, with this increase in YouTube and with them losing CBS, he's out. Well, I said, you're out. What are you going to do instead?
So where are you going? Right.
And he's like, well, I'll just piece together the streaming services, and I watch too much TV. I got to read more. Like, legitimately saying, like, I'll figure it out when football season comes around and I need to see football. But otherwise, there's nothing I need to see that I can't watch on a couple of streaming services, for TV shows.
Yeah.
And whatever. Now, my wife likes the local news.
Yeah.
To some degree, and when there's a weather event, I'm not a weather event guy, but if there's a tornado or something, you do need.
You're not a weather event. You don't want the information. You're like, nah, I'm just gonna.
Well, I could look out the window or step on the porch
look out the window
to see the weather, generally speaking.
Your knee acts up, and then where the.
No, that's you with the knee problem.
I don't know.
Joints are fine.
Apparently, you don't.
I don't watch the weather on a daily basis. I got to flick on my phone and see, is it going to be in the 20s today or the 40s, and dress accordingly. I don't need to sit. Like, I think local weather casting is a huge scam.
Well, when there's an event, you don't think there's any.
No, when there's an event, I'd say that's the rationale for keeping it.
Okay.
If there's a tornado coming to my house, yes, I would like to know the details of that. That is rather infrequent.
That worried me for a minute. Okay. Yeah, it is rather infrequent. But look, I need, there's so much to the YouTube TV that I don't think you can get anywhere else, especially, again, everything recorded, no limit to the space, user friendly, all that stuff. But like, you can't, I can't do it without CBS. I can't do it. I mean, maybe you're right on the Paramount Plus thing, I guess. But like, then take this into football season, right? Same thing. I mean, NFL and college football, right? I guess, I got Sunday ticket, so I guess that would. But still, like the local games that are on local CBS are blacked out on Sunday ticket.
I mean, you're not going to get to hear the 6th CBS team call the Titans Jaguars game.
Exactly. Maybe, and Tom Brady may be hopefully demoted to that.
No, he's on Fox.
Yeah. Oh, right. That's right.
If they're going to black out a damn NFL network, black out Fox and save us from Tom Brady.
Yeah, that's our final conclusion. All right, we come back. We'll have Tron Davenport, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
ESPN's Turon Davenport, Talking Titans, now on Robby and Rexrode on ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It is that time of week again. We got TD on the line with Robby and Rexrode, sponsored by First Horizon. Big, big muscle, small, big hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/getitall. And PK, you got a question for TD right out of the gates.
Morning, TD.
You'd unmute yourself.
Yeah, we've been.
Good morning.
What's up, TD?
We've been talking for a while about Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
I'm of the opinion he's a corner first, but you see him more as a playmaker and think, particularly for the Titans, that he can be an offensive force right out of the gate. Tell us about how you view him and about how much you've heard of him maybe in that role from scouts.
Yeah, well, you're 100% right. I do view him as just a playmaker, and that's why he's not a CB, a WR. To me, he's a PM. That's what I call him. And he's someone that I would just have a package of plays for, and you have to see him first, second, and third down. And you know what? When my defense does the job, you're going to have to see him on fourth down because he would return every single kick, punt, whatever happens, he would be there to catch the ball. That's the way I would use him. But you are right. There is a growing sentiment that definitely believes he has talent at corner. Here's the problem, though. He didn't really get too much time to hone in on his man coverage skills, obviously, because he's practicing limited. And even when he does practice, he does a lot of offense. So it's tough. But there are a lot of people who feel that he could be a solid corner. There's some games where you watch and you're like, I don't know, though, specifically the Arizona one.
That's what I talked to Samari Roll this week about something else, but we wound up talking about Hunter, and he said he thinks it can be a great man corner. He just needs to focus exclusively on corner and really work on man. So he's saying the other thing. I would give him hardly any receiver, maybe some gadget plays and stuff. Let him work exclusively for a while at the beginning on the corner stuff so he could perfect that, and he'd be really good at it.
Yeah, if you're going to have him play both sides of the ball, you definitely want to just have a package. And you look, his coach, right? I mean, you remember 95, right? I mean, this dude, Deion Sanders, was lining up on the outside and running go routes. Sometimes it was decoys, other times he was making the catch. So it can be done from that perspective. Me personally, I just love the playmaking that he brings. And if I'm the Titans looking at it, I would take advantage of the playmaking. You got, once Snead is healthy, you got him. Jarvis Brownlee Jr., I think, is, going to blossom into a really good player. Cheeto is there, Darrell Baker Jr. You have, 4 pretty solid corners. I wouldn't put him there.
We've been talking some this week about the idea that if the Titans couldn't get out of one and don't like the quarterbacks, the idea of them taking, it seems people are more into Abdul Carter, maybe because of the Titans' needs, than Hunter. Well, what would you think about a scenario where a quarterback-starved team goes with what the consensus seems to be out there? Maybe their scouting agrees with the idea these quarterbacks aren't worth one, and they pass on the quarterbacks and they take the edge rusher at number 1. It's kind of an unprecedented thing.
Yeah, it's really crazy that you have a team that's starving for a quarterback, and so many people are suggesting not take it. And I said this on the Power Hour yesterday. Why is it okay for the Giants to trade up to 1 and take Shedeur or take a quarterback, and it's okay for the Browns to take a quarterback, but it's not for the Titans? I look at the Browns. Obviously, their roster is in better shape than the Titans, but the Giants and Titans are on a similar level of terrible. You know what I mean? So it would be a different thing. But, hey, I mean, you got Jeffrey Simmons banging the table yesterday for Abdul Carter. You look at the Eagles and what they were able to do. Now, obviously, you're not going to replicate that in one draft because that's a series of drafts and signings that Howie Roseman made. So it's not going to be the same. But you look at that, and if you're in the AFC, your goal, like what you got to do is gear up to beat the Chiefs. They've been to 6 straight AFC championship games. You got to gear up to beat them, and what has been proven by the Buccaneers as well as the Eagles is the way you beat them. And the Titans, to an extent, we know they've played them well too. You have to find a way to disrupt and irritate and impact Patrick Mahomes. That's your only way. So Abdul Carter, I mean, you go back and watch the Notre Dame game. This dude with one arm, he dominated. So definitely a top-level prospect. Not to mention, he's a Philly guy, so he's going to get extra points with me.
That's right. Well, yeah, and my answer to the quarterback thing that you brought up there, TD, is like, the answer just has to be, if you believe they're that good, then you absolutely take them. But you don't just because you're quarterback needy, right? I mean, what happens in this league. A lot of teams do. They just pick the quarterback high because they're quarterback needy. Sometimes they get in trouble. But hey, look, man, I said this week, like Titans could also decide, no, we're out on these guys. In a few years from now, we're sitting there like, oh my God, Cam Ward's a top 5 QB in this league. And what have you done? I mean, there's the risk either way. But let me frame it to you this way, TD. So let's say it gets to that scenario, whatever. They trade, like the Giants desperate for one of those guys. Titans get down to 3, and they have the choice between Carter and Hunter. What's your choice?
Oh, it's easy for me. It's Carter.
It's Carter.
That is a very easy choice for me. Definitely.
Interesting.
What? How deep do you think they go at edge? And what do you think about the future of Harold Landry? I was talking earlier. I think there's a chance that I don't know about done all the way done, but I think there's a chance that maybe he's best slotted as the third guy, not the first or second guy anymore. Seems like his burst is gone, and he's pretty far removed from that ACL now.
That's a great point. The burst, the fastball that used to be his trademark, you don't really see it as much anymore. And, I mean, maybe he could be better suited in a situation where, hey, look, man, it's third down. We're going to bring you in. Go do what you do. Maybe that's the case. I would look at Arden Key, too. I'm just curious, how his situation is going to work out. Whether do they trade him? Do they release him? I would monitor that part of it. And regardless of what they do, I think they still need to bring in the edge. If they don't take one, if they don't take Abdul Carter, there's some guys, at the top, at 35 that you could pick. But here's the thing, right? You look at the Eagles, and I hate to keep pointing back to that, but you look at the Eagles, Jalix Hunt, right? He's a guy they drafted like in the 4th round. And you talk about situational pass rusher, that's exactly what he is. Because, it's like 235 pounds. And they just bring him in and they say, man, go get the quarterback. And he was one of the guys that helped harass Patrick Mahomes. So it doesn't have to be first round, second round if you go situational. But, to your point about Harold Landry, at that amount of money, they could save if they release him. It's going to be one to watch.
Yeah, that money, I know they're not up against it the way they've been some years past, but $17 million for the role that he could conceivably play. I wonder if at the very least they don't approach him about a cut.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. And I mean, look, what happens if they pony up for, Trey Smith? What happens if they do that? But speaking of Trey Smith, did you guys see the way he and Nolan Smith were colliding in that Super Bowl?
One collision was brutal.
Yeah, and the thing is, and that's another. I mentioned Nolan Smith because he's not a bigger guy, but that dude just packs so much power behind him. I mean, Trey Smith outweighed him by like 80 pounds. But you saw what happened when the collision was there. It wasn't good, So I mentioned Trey Smith because obviously the right guard situation, the tackle situation, we'll see what they do there. This is going to be a busy offseason for us, and I'm loving it.
So you mentioned like at 35, they can get some edge. It seems to me like edge is one of the deeper positions. I know a lot of people are overall kind of down on this draft, but if you're knowing what you do about, let's say we don't know what all they're going to address in the offseason, but right now, if they don't make a big signing like at edge and right tackle, do you think they'd be better off addressing tackle or edge at 35 if they don't do it earlier?
That's a good question. I really like Kyle Kennard. I like Mike Green. Kyle Kennard from South Carolina by way of Georgia Tech. Mike Green, Tulane. Those are guys that could be there at 35. It really depends. I think, I've mentioned his name a few times. Carson Vincent out of Alabama A&M. You're looking at a day 3 option that could, have kind of like that Titus Howard effect. A HBCU guy. You flip him from left to right, and he plays. it's deep at tackle too. It's just at the top of it, like you don't have your Joe Alt, your J.C. Lathams, your guys that you would pick in the top 10 or top 5, but you do have a lot of guys. It goes deep, so they can get a guy later. But if you look at your impact pass rushers, and Nick Suss, one of the things I like about being in the room with him is he always points out quirky stuff like that. And you look at the best pass rushers in the league, most of them, minus Max Crosby, were top 20 picks. So, that is something that you have to consider.
They really downplayed what they're going to do in free agency, but you think there'd be at least one big ticket item, be it Trey Smith or Josh Sweat's probably overpriced now based on the Super Bowl performance, and his numbers aren't really great, though he's a steady guy. Or Nick Bolton's not going to cost a fortune, but he's an expensive inside linebacker. It's got to be at least one big ticket in here, don't you figure?
Yeah, I think so. Because, remember what Callahan said, in his end of the season presser, he said, they have to get a right tackle. They have to address that. But he also said the right side, right guard and right tackle. So, hey, Trey Smith plays right guard. So definitely one that I would put in there in the mix. And you mentioned Josh Sweat. You're 1,000% right. I think that the Super Bowl overpriced him. And, he had 2.5 sacks. He was wrecking havoc and everything. But, if you look, he's been a Harold Landry level player. So do you go out and you break the bank for kind of what you already have?
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. Now, that's not to say he doesn't set the edge as well, but, he's been like that level player. I wouldn't overpay for that.
The Super Bowl maybe knock Trey Smith a little to your advantage?
It's tough because, look, man, all right, forget it. I'll say it. Jalen Carter is what Jeffrey Simmons is supposed to be. And PK, you know how I feel about Jeff. That's my guy. You know what I mean? But that's what Jeffrey Simmons is supposed to be.
He's dominant.
So for Carter doing what he did against Trey, it's going to happen. Sometimes, right, the guy that is getting paid a lot of money is going to do what he has to do. He's a great player too. So I don't think it damaged his stock or anything like that. I would still pay a big ticket for him because he's consistently, overall body of work has been a better player.
Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation. Thank you, TD. The Eagles won one for your mom there, so I know.
Yes, sir.
And today's parade day, so big stuff.
Yeah.
So
listen, man, I looked. I Sunday night. I was on, all the websites trying to book a flight. Man, I couldn't find one for under $516. So I'll just have to watch it on the app and live it out that way.
Were you going to get a ticket too?
Never mind the flight. Safer that way.
Never mind the flight. What was the ticket going to be?
He's talking about the parade.
For the parade.
Yeah, for the parade. Yeah. And PK, you know how I do, man. I maneuver and finesse. I would have gotten on that bus and been there.
No, I know. That parade's crazy scene.
That'll be
1 million people in the city, man.
Wow.
Insane.
Something to watch. All right, TD, thanks a lot, man. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, for sure. Appreciate you guys.
Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation. We'll react to some of that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. The Game Nashville Sports Network is your home for NASCAR racing. Sunday, tune in for the Daytona 500 on Sports Talk 8:30 at 12:30 p.m. and on 102.5 The Game following the Vanderbilt baseball game. Coverage of the Daytona 500 presented by Green Trees and the newcumberland.com. Welcome back into Robby and Rexrode. Sponsored by First Horizon Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. What are you pumping your fist about over there, PK?
Nick turned me off, but then he did turn me back on. But I don't know if he thought I was making a little bit of background noise there during your commercial, or that I couldn't handle.
Okay,
that I couldn't handle it.
Do you feel like you need to babysit
why
PK?
The close
Nick?
monitor?
No, I didn't want you to have your rotating microphone make all the squeaking noises.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, I think that's good for you, Nick. I commend
Good
you
for
on
you.
that. And PK, I'd like you to be a little more careful.
I
Please.
think that makes it, that background noise adds to the ambiance of being a real radio
Oh,
show.
really?
As
You like
opposed
that? Okay.
to just a podcast.
Just a little squeaking and yeah.
Like we're in an actual studio with an antenna
Okay.
and headphones that kind of don't, work. I've had the pleasure.
I side with Nick.
I never have two-eared headphones here, but these headphones have flashed two ears. So at brief moments, I've heard things in two ears today, but then it flashes back to one ear.
Yeah.
So it's like it's tantalizing.
Something about this studio destroys one ear of all the headphones. It's very strange.
Nick
it's
comes
haunted.
in here after
It's
the show and he
haunted.
works feverishly to try to fix them, but it can't quite get it there.
Yeah. Well, we've got Adam in Portland on the line. On the by the way, WilsonCountyHunter.com drives our phone and text line 615-737-1025. Adam, want to talk about the top pick? What's up, Adam?
I just now realized something. I just now realized that we don't have a third round pick.
Oh yeah.
Where you been, bud?
So I got to call. Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't think about it. I knew they traded it, but I didn't think about it at all. I'm calling my shot, dude. There's no way we stay in the top pick. You got to trade back and get that pick. So I don't know. It just hit me when you guys are talking. And I love you fighting with Jared, by the way, Paul. Like that's good radio. I don't know who would say that's not good radio. Like, you got to put that dude in his place. I've been telling it for years, man. I'm like, look, get these people on your show and yell at them. Don't talk smack about them and not bring them on your show. Anyway, it's a big pet peeve of mine. But no, I'm calling my shot, dude. We've got to get that pick back. So you can't stay in number one. You got to move back.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I think
Adam.
you're kind of catching up to the entire fan base.
Yeah.
Realizing that L'Jarius Sneed was on the roster last year.
I
It's easy to forget because
I forget things.
Easy to forget because he didn't play, but yeah, they don't have a third round pick.
Well, it's funny that we're talking about this because there's a little back and forth. I'm having a little back and forth with Chad Graff, who covers the Patriots for The Athletic. And this is the time of year when everybody's throwing obviously so many things out. Someone on the YouTube chat, by the way, says, and I just saw it behind you, the Get Up show, they said Russell Wilson, the Titans would be the best match. But also, there are people talking, possible trades. What about Jeff Simmons? What about Jeff Simmons to the Patriots? And what would it take? And you and I've talked like that third, getting back into the third along with more, could be one outcome there. Do you think that would be something that they would seriously in real life entertain? I all this stuff about Simmons tweeting, yay, congrats to Terrell Williams, and then people are freaking out about it. Whatever. However, do I think that Jeffrey Simmons would be rejuvenated playing for Vrabel and Terrell Williams again? I do.
I mean, I don't care about his rejuvenation.
Well, I understand, but there is, on the Patriots side of things, that's right. Like, what is he as a player? Like, that's all the things that go into a conversation that make that more than fantasy football and turn it into reality. I don't know if it could be.
I mean, I think if they could get two reasonable picks for him, it creates another hole that you need to fill. You have to hit at a good rate and everything, but they want picks.
It creates money.
They want to be young. And I think leadership reset, I've made probably too big a deal out of that, but I like the idea of a leadership reset.
Like Jarrell Casey, when John Robinson, and by the way, there's another good move by John Robinson. I know it offends you to consider that he had any.
No, it doesn't.
But when he made that move, I was like, God,
It's seventh rounder for him. I mean, it's not that big a deal.
Right. But in my mind, I'm like, I wanted to see a year. I wanted to see the 2020 season with Casey and Simmons together. That seemed like it could have been really good. As it turns out, he got out at the exact right time,
Yeah, no.
And he tore his Achilles, and it was exactly when you make that move. I don't think that Simmons
and they did Casey
there.
a huge favor, by the way, because Casey had a pretty big contract, and Denver inherited that contract. So instead of cutting him and putting him on the market where he wouldn't have got that much money, he got him to a place that absorbed his contract.
So I think Simmons is definitely younger now than Casey was then, without knowing exactly what his age was.
But Casey was on the down.
Casey was different spot in his career. But I think that Simmons and Sweat is a good tandem, and if you put more around them than that, and if Sweat takes a step, that's a big part of it, right? But then also, even the level Simmons is at, which is not his best level. I don't think he's been at his best level really since 21. Yeah, but also since I think that I have no idea if this is a thing, but I mean that playing through that ankle in 22, I don't think he's been the same player. But he's still a very good player. Is he the same level of player for the next 2-3 years? If so, I would rather have that player than the picks. But I don't know that that's the case.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to forecast what's coming for him and what you want in your locker room. So what does Borgonzi think of him? And what's their honest assessment of him and their honest forecast of him? And what do they value him at picks-wise?
I mean, you knock him for his leadership, and I think you make a lot of fair points, but also I wonder if people hear that and think like he's like a drag in the locker room. You don't think that?
I don't think he's a drag in the locker room. I don't think he's a bad guy, but I don't think he's a great example of accountability. He's happy when he plays well, and he's not happy when he doesn't play well, and those aren't always connected to team results.
Okay, I have another thought on that. We are going to get to some college hoops, though, before the show's over. By PK's desperate demand. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. Time to give some tickets away here, Keezer. Let's get crazy and go caller 6. Caller 6, okay? Family 4-pack of tickets to the Athletes Unlimited professional basketball games at the Nashville Municipal Auditorium. Saturday, tip-off 5 p.m. See star players including Alicia Clark, Sydney Colson, Lexi Brown, Jordan Horson, Isabel Harrison, and more. Caller 6. And welcome back in. Here are our last couple segments of the week, PK. As you've done an admirable job of filling in for Rob. We got a lot of people, a lot of reaction today to a lot of people demanding more PK, which we have typically when you come on here.
Appreciate that. Keep it up, people.
We also have our buddy Jake, Jake from Greenbrier, Jake and Ball, who says he didn't tag you. He wanted just to tell me on Twitter, but
Come on, Jake, tag.
Well, no, because he just, he probably just didn't want you guys to bicker at each other, so he didn't tag you two. But he said Stillman and PK as a radio tandem has unbelievable potential. Tagging only Joe and not the two of them to play along with this bit. So there you go.
Stillman wants nothing to do with that. It doesn't.
I will say that, like, it's way more tense when you're me trying to traffic cop that situation. I would very much enjoy just listening to it without having any responsibility for it. But it might be a little intense. There might need to be, you guys might have to go to like a retreat, like you do like those trust falls.
No.
Like Stilly, I'll catch you. I promise. I'll catch you, Stilly. I promise. And, kind of like go and tell each other your deepest secrets and maybe have some ayahuasca and then come back to Nashville and be ready to do a show together.
You've been to both New York and Boston, correct?
Sure.
Do you understand the difference in the accents?
Yeah, but your accent isn't. You're a Jersey guy, yeah,
which is not Boston.
Yeah, I'm not
actually
doing Boston.
We hate Boston.
I'm not. I don't think.
I love the city of Boston if they could just empty it of its inhabitants.
Yeah, there you go. So basically, you'd like to kill the entire city and then just go make it your own playland.
Empty it.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. All right. Well. I don't think I'm doing a Boston accent.
You are.
It's a weird.
Everyone knows
it is a weird
hybrid.
Accent. I will admit. I'll. But when I talk like that, that's not Boston. That's New York.
It's not New York and New Jersey. I don't know where it is, I know where it isn't.
I'll keep working on it.
No.
No.
The work is not working.
Yeah. Maybe I can go hire a linguist. So
yes.
So Simmons, Simmons being dealt. So we've thrown that out as a possibility. We've thrown out Landry as a cap casualty. I would look at Traylon Burks as a potential cut.
Well, he's not going to be on this roster, but he's going to be in camp.
You're certain of that?
I don't see why he wouldn't be. Like, what's the damage to having him in camp?
I guess the only thing I would say is he sucks up oxygen. Again, this is not his fault. The fact that, like, when he's here, there's still like the whole history of him coming here and then the entire history of people way overinflating what he is. I just feel like
that's an outside issue to them, not an inside issue.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess if you're them, though, I could also make the case, you know what? He needs a fresh start. We need to rebuild that room and stop waiting for something to happen that's not happening. And so why not? Why even entertain the whole camp thing and then have to hear somebody talk about how he's so big and fast and wow, if just only he could figure out how to play football.
Maybe. I abide by a Floyd Reese theory here on something like this. Like, I don't think he can help this team. I don't think he's going to show up reliably and all of that. But you get your room together. The guy is under contract, and you don't know who's going to fall down the stairs. It's probably Traylon Burks, but what if it's Calvin Ridley?
Yeah.
And then you need all the alternatives you have, and he's one of them somewhere in the pecking order.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And the absolute lack of depth, I almost feel like the difference could be made like on NWI. Like if you know you have him now, and you're gonna have a couple young guys. I guess you'll have Jaquan Jackson. I guess
Jaquan Jackson. I mean, there's a guy that I don't know needs to be on the roster.
Yeah, but like if you have NWI, then I think that because obviously what you hope, we always say this, is you hope that he's your 3 or your 4, right? So you have to obviously address it at the top of the room. But if you have him for that depth, I would feel less compelled to have Burks around.
All right, so you've got Ridley. You ideally have a draft pick that can, be a 1/2 with Ridley, and you re-sign NWI for 3. Who's your 4?
Yeah, that's someone else. That's another. Another TBD.
And another TBD. But
I mean, some people
Burks
like Bryce Oliver.
Yeah, Bryce Oliver's got some promise. But I would say, and I dislike Burks as much as anybody, but I would say it's not damaging to have Treylon Burks work as your 4th or compete for 4th in camp. Based on what we're saying right now.
Yeah. I just feel like I think for him, maybe even more than them. And I know to your point,
I don't care about him.
Yeah, but I think that, but because it's him, I just would have my concerns that it's ever going to be anything productive or valuable at all here.
I don't expect
it may not be anywhere.
Either. I don't expect it will be either, but
Michael and Madison, your Valentine today, said, I thought Burke's problem was that he couldn't suck up oxygen. Well, there's been a stream of issues.
I think the asthma is behind. I mean, moves on to other issues. He's coming off a torn ACL too. So, and that was, the surgery wasn't until, I want to say, I'm guessing mid-November. So what's the timetable? He's got to be healthy before they can do anything.
Yeah. A suggestion here from Joel, he says, we got Jared versus Joe. Why can't we add a weekly Stilly versus Pauly segment? Would you be willing to do that?
I'm available for
Stilly
negotiations.
Pauly. All right, there we go. That's a start. Trevor says, send them off to one of those summer camps, have them out there doing the egg toss. Ooh, go from egging Stilly the Pooh's house to the egg toss.
No, we're egging Stilly's house with our egging business. Yeah. We're just waiting for the price of eggs to come down, and I'm told that'll be any second. So as soon as that comes down, we're in business.
Yeah, I think it's that was a big thing, right? Vanzies on the YouTube chat says PK was awesome, especially about the fan segment. He was 100% right. And I said his fan gatekeeping. Said yes, he was completely right. Yeah, I don't even want to revisit the fan gatekeeping. He was not completely right.
Completely right.
He was not. He went overboard.
It's not like going to the shopping market and picking. Just not.
Yeah, well, it's not, right, but a lot of these fan stories that we heard, like Ed, I thought he had a great fan story, and that's a perfectly fine fan origin story. Question here is Colton Dowell on the deal. We do never talk about Colton Dowell.
We should talk about Colton Dowell. Colton Dowell, though, is a long shot player. I mean, if you get something out of a 7th rounder, say he rebounds from the ACL, fine. He'll be, in position to recover from that. But it's hard to count on a 7th round pick to be, they drafted him to be like a 4th, 5th.
Right. But at least because
he is under contract. We didn't mention it.
Yes. And that is potential depth.
Yes.
And they have to have depth. They have to have more difference makers. That's more important, but also just some guys who you can plug in.
Ideally, a special teamer who's active on Sunday for you and functional depth.
Yeah. And I mean, that's at least another option. But obviously, they have to do a lot of work there. They have to do a lot of work at a lot of places. There's no doubt. We're about a month away. Good Lord. We're about a month away from things happening.
Well,
we're about what? 2 weeks away from the combine. Is that right? 2 weeks?
24th.
So 10 days when you'll probably hear from them or so. Then you get into the interviews. Then you get into the actual testing and whatnot.
We're getting close, at least one more week of having nothing new, conceivably.
Do you just go for the Titan stuff, or do you actually stay and watch testing?
I don't care about watching the testing. I care about hearing from all
the interviews. Yeah. You go through the whole process of the interviews.
Yeah.
Who is beyond the obvious people? We know all the usual suspects, all the obvious people. Who's someone that you're really interested in hearing from, talking to, finding more about, who could be a player of interest?
I'm very interested in a right tackle out of Kansas named Logan Brown, who I think is a top of the 4th round kind of guy.
Okay.
James Foster at my site wrote about 29 different people this week. One of them was Logan Brown. He was at Wisconsin for 3 years. He was at Kansas for 2 years. Titans' top offensive line assistant, Scott Fuchs, was at, it's actually rhymes with books.
Fuchs?
Fuchs.
This is not the last name you want to butcher, PK.
Yes, he was at Kansas for a year with him before he came to join Bill Callahan. So there'd be overlap there. Very athletic, but it was very heavy run scheme. So doesn't have a lot of pass protection experience, but really looks the part and has some physical skills. I'm interested to talk to him and learn more about him. He's like one of my early guys that I think I'm really into.
Interesting. All right, good stuff. When we come back, we'll wrap it up. Talk about why this weekend to come is so awesome. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final episode of the week here on Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. PK. Got a couple questions here. Adam in Portland chiming in with, what do you guys know about Ohio State defensive end Jack Sawyer? From what I've seen of him, he looks like Kyle Vandenbosch with that high motor. I think he's good. He's not a first rounder, I don't think, but
he's good. But I don't know that he has spectacular trait.
Right. And that is, actually a really good tweet from my buddy Brian Summers I think yesterday about the very strong correlation at edge with your relative athletic score and your performance in the league. Like the traits, the athletic traits, they're obviously important in any position, but some more than others. Edge seems to be very – it doesn't guarantee anything if you have a high RAS, but he listed out all these guys, basically the best edges there. Very few guys that don't have that are great players.
He's a high effort guy, which you're going to love.
Yeah, he's a good player. I mean, I think he's I think he'll play in the NFL.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, he's not a first round guy, I don't think. But I had another question here, but I guess I've lost it here.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Good
Thank
job,
you.
buddy.
So, yes, great. A lot of people giving you flowers, but Thomas from Hendersonville says,
hates me.
Great. No, he says, a great week of talk radio. Let's do one more thing. Make pronouncing H's a thing again. It's huge. Huge, not huge. What accent is huge?
It's all about efficiency.
Like, where does that come from?
It's all about efficiency. You just gloss over it, and it saves time.
It's not less efficient to say huge.
Yeah, huge, quicker.
How is that quicker?
It's just the way I
All right, well, it's a huge weekend, by the way, in college basketball. I'm so happy to end the show on this. Tennessee, Vanderbilt tomorrow. Alabama, Auburn, number 1, number 2. We got also Mississippi State, by the way. The SEC is incredible. PK.
Did you hear which ESPN commentator was it that said no SEC team has really stood out? I mean, they're 82 and 82 again.
Carl freaking Ravage.
What was that?
Oh my God.
He's a baseball guy.
Carl this has been a running joke. So Mark Pope from Kentucky.
Really bad.
So somebody made this joke, and it's like everybody. Yeah, it was like I think it was just like a tweet. Like everybody's talking about the SEC. They're 42 and 42 since conference started. What's so special about that? It was like, yeah, good one. So Carl Ravage actually entertains that as a thing. He's like, well, I don't know. I mean, whatever, 82 and 80. Dude.
Once conference play starts, there's no out-of-conference games, right?
Right.
None.
It's going to be the exact same number of wins as losses. So
that was horrific.
I want to give
has he acknowledged that?
I don't know.
He has to. I mean,
he's
got to have a sense of humor about himself and really clown himself.
But
that was atrocious.
On the flip side of that, I wish we knew that we were going to talk about this because I would have gotten it's too late to get the audio. But Mark Pope, the Kentucky coach, was asked. Now, I don't know if he was like asked seriously, if it was joking, but he says, yeah, I feel like we're not living up to the expectations just being 500 as a conference. And he's like joking, like playing along with the joke.
That's great.
Yes. So big thumbs up to Mark Pope. Big thumbs down to Carl freaking Ravage. God, how could you possibly get suckered into that? But PK, I got to say, I'm super excited. I think Vanderbilt is probably in for a tough day in Knoxville. They, of course, beat Tennessee. Can you tell me the last time Vanderbilt swept Tennessee in men's basketball?
I suspect it's been since Kevin Stallings.
You suspect right. And it would be his last year, actually, 2016, back when, Tennessee, I think that would that have been Barnes' first year? I think so. So he was just starting out. They were not a good program. They'd gone through all kinds of weird hires and all this stuff with Bruce Pearl, and Vanderbilt was flat out a better program. But it's been since then that they swept them. I don't think we're going to be talking about that tomorrow because Tennessee's ticked off from losing to Kentucky and from losing the first game to Vanderbilt. But look, Vanderbilt has blown me away with what they've done even the other night. Auburn comes in here. Auburn's the best team in college basketball. Auburn should win the national championship. They came in here, and it was 15-0 like that. And Vanderbilt got it. I mean, they were right there midway through the second half, right there with them, fought back. So I think it could be a good game, but I like Tennessee. Auburn, Alabama is, I'm so excited for this game. It's at 3:00 tomorrow. What will you be doing at 3:00 tomorrow, PK? Not watching that game.
I'll have trouble remembering that. I could try to watch it, maybe.
Tennessee. That's a noon game for us, noon Central. Tennessee Vanderbilt. So keep that in mind too. But the SEC continues to be amazing. Nick from Franklin claims that he says Carl Ravitch did acknowledge it. He said took the L, so that he did it on Twitter. I think he needs to give an impassioned 5-minute speech of apology. I need more than the took the L on Twitter for what he did there. That's pretty amazing stuff. Also this week, Curtis on the YouTube chat, UC, we've had a lot of UC Saros talk. Jared Stillman would like him to be immediately removed from the premises and never start another game. I will say that
who's that?
UC Saros.
Oh yeah.
I will say that. What are you doing over there? You
Sorry, I got a distracted.
Doing some scheduling. I mean, the show's still happening.
I got a distracted.
Okay. All right. I guess everything okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I will say that if Kevin Lankinen, if they go to Lankinen over Saros, that's not great.
That would be.
Boy, that's going to be kerosene. I mean, it is kerosene on the discourse, especially at 2:00. But we've got some good feuds going here too, PK, between Stilly and the midday show. The DVD. So there's a good hockey feud there too. So it's not just you and Stilly screaming at each other, not just me. They've got a good thing. Stilly will have.
I mean, what's the defense of Saros? Homerism.
Defensive Saros?
Yeah.
Well, it's not. Again, we're talking about his take is, move on, get out. You've already signed this deal. I mean, to me, that's ridiculous. You have to hope this year is an aberration. You have to hope that he has good years ahead of him.
How old is he?
There's no need to defend that he has been a great goalie. He has been. They're a bad team. He's having a bad year. What does that mean? I mean, it's not about defending him. It's about how severe is this situation. How old is UC Saros? 29? He is 3-0 right now, so a little bit troubling. But we got to go. Thanks, PK. Great week. Thank you, Mr. Keyser. And Chase and Big Joe up next.
Thanks to Chase McCabe and to you for having me. To Nick, don't block the box. Be sure to lock the box.
102.5, 106.3 The Game.